Hello and welcome back to my new series, Fabric 101, where I do a deep dive on a specific fabric type, telling you everything there is to know about that fabric type, giving you top tips on how to sew with it, and showing you some examples of that type of fabric that we have in stock. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jess and I am the owner of So Much More, which is a small dressmaking fabric shop based in Tavistock, Devon. So in today's episode, it is all about stretch fabric, specifically cotton jersey versus viscose jersey. What is it? What's the difference between the two? I'll give you some top tips on just sewing stretch fabrics in general, because I know a lot of people are a bit hesitant to sew stretch fabric, but I promise you have nothing to worry about. And yeah, I'll be giving you a deep dive on the difference between a cotton jersey and a viscose jersey, why you might choose one over the other, the different pattern types that are appropriate for a cotton jersey versus a viscose jersey, and yeah, just a big deep dive into stretch fabrics. So I think the best place to start is going to be with the basics. So what is a cotton jersey? What is a viscose jersey? And what's the difference between the two? So a cotton jersey, and I am broadly speaking, I'm kind of generalizing here, but cotton jersey is usually made from 95% cotton or thereabouts with 5% elastane, spandex, lycra, take your pick, whatever type of stretch you want to put in there. But the main thing to take from that is that it's always a really large percentage is made from cotton, usually 95%. Viscose jersey is the opposite. So 95% of it would be made from viscose, with the other 5% made from the stretch, which would be the elastane, the spandex, or the lycra. So the main difference between the two is that the bulk, the majority of the composition of the fabrics is one is cotton and one is viscose. And then they vary because those two fabrics have different properties. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So a cotton jersey, we're going to start with a cotton jersey. So I've got one here. Like I was saying, 95% cotton, 5% elastane. This is your typical t-shirt fabric. So if I step back, can you see it's not super drapey? It goes back to its standard weight. It's quite heavy. They're normally around, again generalizing, but they're normally around 200 GSM cotton jerseys, so they have got some weight to them. And yeah, these are your typical bog standard t-shirt type fabric. I will show you that they are stretchy, just to prove it to you, but I promise you they are. So really nice and stretchy. So that's got the 5% elastane in it with 95% cotton. That's a cotton jersey. Then let me move on and show you a viscose jersey. So a viscose jersey, like I've already said, is going to be the majority viscose. So this one is 96% viscose with 4% lycra. But if I step back with this, can you see how much drapier that is, how much more it moves? And that is because the properties of a viscose fabric are way more drapey than the properties of a cotton fabric. I'm hoping you can see the difference. I wonder if I can try and put a clip here so that you can see them side by side and see how they move next to each other. So basically the main difference is that a viscose jersey is a million times drapier and it has more movement than a cotton jersey. So I'm just going to show you the stretch of the viscose jersey here. So same amount of stretch as the cotton jersey, it just feels completely different because the majority of it is made up of a different type of fabric. Right, so I'm just going to speak very generally now, just to give you some more information. So most cotton jerseys and viscose jerseys come as the wider width as standard. So that's the 150 centimetres wide / 60 inches wide, depending whether you're in centimetres or inches, which is that nice wide dressmaking width. So you can get a lot more worth for your money. Yeah, as standard, pretty much all jersey fabrics come as that width. In terms of pricing, I can obviously only speak for our pricing. So they range with us from about £10 per metre up to about £16 per metre. I do know that they come well outside of that price range at other places. I just choose not to stock the more expensive ones, but I do know that, yeah, you can get some quite pricey stretch fabrics, but we only stock up to about £16 per metre. So that's kind of the price range that you're looking at. In terms of the stretch, so the stretch percentage, again, broadly speaking, but most of them are between 40 and 50% stretch. So they do have a really nice, decent stretch. So great for t-shirts, jumpsuits, anything tight that you need to get over your head. They're great for kids' clothes as well. But having said that, I do just want to say that not all jersey fabrics are kid design. I know that that is a lot of people's beliefs, that stretch fabrics are just for children. They're not. You can get some really nice adult designs that I'm going to show you in a little bit. So now I want to talk to you about my top tips for sewing with stretch fabric, because I do know that a lot of people are really worried and scared to sew with stretch fabrics, and I'm here to tell you, you've got nothing to be worried about. Don't stress about it. In fact, when I started dressmaking, don't get me wrong, I did know how to sew before I started dressmaking. I did like quilts and stuff like that before I started branching out into the world of clothing. But I just threw myself in the deep end, and my first thing that I ever made in terms of clothing was the Tilly and the Buttons Cocoa top. I made it as a long sleeve t-shirt, and that is a jersey fabric. And I didn't know to be scared of it. I did absolutely zero research. I didn't know that beginners might not be able to do jersey, and therefore didn't know to be worried, and I was fine. And that's kind of my outlook. I think when I'm talking to beginners, I think you're getting in your head about it. It's not actually as complicated as you think it might be. And really, what's there to be scared of? It's just some fabric. It's not life or death. It's just some fabric. And if you mess up some fabric, oh well, does it matter? Do you know what I mean? Now, obviously, you don't want to be spending loads of money and then messing it up. I understand that. But if you're beginning, I'd start with some cheaper. Don't spend loads of money on it. Just give it a go, because really, what is the worst that can happen? But I have got some tips for if you are giving it a go. So, number one, always use a ballpoint needle in your machine if you are sewing with a stretch fabric. It helps go into the fabric much smoother. I have to say, I have accidentally used a normal needle when sewing with a jersey, and it does work. I probably shouldn't be saying that. It does work, but you will find it will be smoother if you use a ballpoint needle. So if you are worried, I would start with that. Just make sure you've got a ballpoint needle. They are universal, so they will fit in any machine. It's just the tip is slightly different, but they will fit into your sewing machine, so don't worry about that. Number two, use a zigzag stitch or a lightning stitch, depending what your machine is capable of doing. Even the most basic of machine will be able to do a zigzag stitch. So just because you might have a lower end model machine doesn't mean you can't sew with jersey. So don't let that put you off either. But yeah, a zigzag stitch, because that helps stretch with the fabric on a seam. If you're just using a standard straight stitch, you might find that when that seam is under stretch, that those stitches might, break. Couldn't think of the word then. Those stitches might break because that stitch hasn't got any stretch to it, whereas a zigzag stitch has got a little bit. Don't get me wrong, it's not a stretchy thread stitch, but it's got more give than just a straight stitch. So yeah, a zigzag stitch is a very kind of important one to do. Number three, if you have a walking foot available for your machine. So this isn't a necessity, but if you have one, use that. It will help you, but you can absolutely sew jersey with just a standard presser foot for your machine. But if you do have a walking foot, then use that, because you will find it goes through the machine a lot smoother. So a walking foot is basically that really big. Not every machine comes with it as standard, so you might have it, or you might have to get it separately. But like I said, don't worry too much if you haven't got it, because it's an added expense. But if you've got one, basically how they work is they're a really big foot. They're about this big. And on your machine, you've got feed dogs underneath where your needle goes down. You've got feed dogs, and that's what guides your fabric through the machine. Basically, a walking foot has got those feed dogs, but all underneath the presser foot. So you've got feed dogs here for your machine, and then you've got feed dogs on the foot. And basically, when you put the fabric through, it just guides it so much smoother as you're going through. And obviously, because it's got stretch, fabric has got stretch, it just helps pull it through without stretching the fabric as you go. My next tip is to use, if you can get it, Maraflex thread. That is a new Gutermann, well, newish, it's not that new anymore, it's a few years old. A stretch thread, but it's not stretchy, it's not elastic, but it's a nice stretchy thread that you, like I was saying earlier, where you shouldn't use a straight stitch if you're sewing with jersey. If you use Maraflex thread, you can use a straight stitch, because the thread itself is stretchy, so it means it's not going to break the stitches as it's pulled. Having said that, I've never used Maraflex thread. I have always just used a polyester sew-all thread. Polyester has got a bit more give than cotton, so I would suggest using polyester, because cotton, when it's under pressure, it can just snap, whereas polyester is much stronger, so it is not going to snap. But yeah, if you can get Maraflex thread, then you can use that. But like I said, I've never personally used it, and I've always been okay with just a polyester thread and a zigzag stitch. But if you don't want to use a zigzag stitch, then yeah, Maraflex is the answer. So I think that's all my tips for sewing with stretch fabric. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, just have a go. Like, there's nothing to be scared of. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. It's not the end of the world. I suppose the only other thing I would say is, when you're putting the fabric through the machine, a lot of people, I'm going to stand on the side to try and explain this. So you'll put the fabric through the machine, and a lot of people have their hand at the back and try and guide the fabric out the other side. But by doing that, they're actually pulling the fabric, and because the fabric is stretchy, they're stretching the fabric rather than guiding it through the machine. Just don't do that. Just have your hands on the top and let the machine pull the fabric through, let the machine guide it through. You can have your hands on the top just to help guide the fabric so it doesn't go like wonky, but don't be actually pulling it. Just let the machine take it. And honestly, have a go. You'll be absolutely fine. Another point that I'd like to make is that you do not need an overlocker to sew jersey fabrics. I feel like this is a really common misconception, and it frustrates me a little bit, because I remember when I first started making clothes, like I was just saying, I asked someone, oh, I'd like to make this top, the Tilly and the Buttons one, the Cocoa shirt, which was a jersey pattern. I'd like to make this. Do I need an overlocker? And they told me yes. So that put me off sewing it, because I thought, well, I don't have an overlocker. I don't want to spend £300 on something that I don't even know that I'm interested in doing it. Like, I'm not doing that. And that put me off. And then I had to go and do my own research to find out that person was wrong. You do not need an overlocker to sew jersey. You can just sew it on a standard sewing machine, like I was saying a minute ago, with the zigzag stitch. Don't get me wrong, an overlocker is useful and it helps when you're doing the seams on like a t-shirt. Basically, an overlocker is helpful. You can make an entire jersey item on an overlocker, but that doesn't mean that's the only way. So you can make an entire jersey outfit or t-shirt on a standard sewing machine as well. So don't let that put you off, because yeah, it's one of them misconceptions that bugs me a little bit because it's just simply not true. It does mean that without an overlocker, you will have raw seams inside. For example, if you're just doing a t-shirt, I'm just going to use that as the example. The inside seams where you've sewn them together with a zigzag stitch, you will find that jersey fabrics, they roll at the raw edge. So you will find that those seams, they will roll outwards, but you can stitch that seam allowance together with a zigzag stitch and it will stop that from happening. It's not quite the same as an overlocker, but it does do the same thing. It does the same job. So yeah, I just really want to make it clear that you do not need an overlocker to sew jersey fabric. You can just do it on an ordinary sewing machine. There is benefits of having an overlocker, but it's not a necessity. So I think that is all of my top tips for sewing with stretch fabric that I can think of right now. But if you have any that I haven't mentioned, then please leave them in the comments, because I think it's always good that we all share different tips that we might have for any beginners or anybody that's just never sewn with stretch before but might like to give it a go. So if you've got any tips that I haven't already said about, then please leave a comment with that tip. Now, what I thought I'd do is run you through some of the stretch fabrics that we have in stock. So I'm going to start with cotton jerseys. I've just picked out a handful. That we do stock many more than this. I've just picked out a handful to show you, and then I'm going to show you some viscose jerseys in a little bit. So I'm going to start with cotton jerseys. Now, at the beginning, I mentioned that a lot of people seem to think that cotton jerseys are only available in children's prints and designs, and I'm here to tell you that is not true. They are available in children's designs, don't get me wrong, but that's not the only type of print that you can get. So this one here is actually part of the Crafty Pie fabric range that came out last autumn. So I'm going to bring it up. So this comes in two different colours. This is the sage green, and it is this daisy gingham. So pretty. These ones are actually like extra soft as well. The composition of them is 95% cotton, 5% elastane, but they are just extra soft, and they actually do feel a little bit drapier than a traditional cotton jersey, but they are so cute. So this is the sage green, but it does also come in navy, and they're just so pretty. And I think this is quite a grown-up design. I don't think this screams children's print. Then next I have got a animal print, and I know animal print isn't for everyone, but it might be for some of you. I personally love animal print, as you can see. So again, not a children's print. This one is the copper leopard print. So it is quite a small design. I'll put my hand next to it so you can see it is quite a small print, and it is this copper, orangey, tan, terracotta kind of colour background. But this is your traditional cotton jersey, so you can see it's not really drapey. It kind of just goes straight back to its original setting. Sorry, I had a fly land on my nose then. And yeah, really cute. So I think just little t-shirts and things like that with this, I think would look absolutely adorable. Then I've got another one that I would describe as like a grown-up print, which is this navy daisy cotton jersey. So it's a navy background, and it's got all these tiny little white cute little daisy flowers. So this comes in other colours as well. I'm just going to look over there to try and remember. They come in a dark grey, comes in a yellow. I think that's it for now, but I might be wrong. There might be more, but I think it's a really cute. It could be used for children's clothes, but I also think it's really cute for adults. Cotton jersey. So I'll stand back and show you. It's not drapey. It kind of just goes back to its own place. So in terms of pattern suggestions for cotton jersey fabrics, there's a lot you can do with them, but just off the top of my head, like I had said earlier, I've made the Tilly and the Buttons Cocoa in a cotton jersey. That was the first thing I ever made, and it works really well. You can do the cocoa in, I think it says to do it in a heavier weight, like a French terry, but it works in a jersey. I've done it in a jersey. You could also do just your bog standard t-shirt. I feel like they're just so underrated. I get so much wear out of just simple t-shirts, and the True Bias Rio t-shirt is a personal fave of mine. I really like the neckline on it with the ribbing. I think it just looks really good. Or I think something like this would look really cute as a jumpsuit, and there's a lot of jumpsuit patterns that are made for stretch fabrics, like the True Bias Nova jumpsuit. I think that would look really, really cute. But yeah, that's one thing to bear in mind. You do need to make sure that the pattern you're using is for a stretch fabric. There are some cases where it doesn't matter so much, but yeah, really you do need to make sure that the pattern is specifically for a stretch fabric, because else you'll find the pattern itself hasn't got enough ease to it or whatever, and you won't be able to get the garment on. So yeah, do try and make sure that you're finding a pattern that is specifically for a stretch fabric. And then the final one that I'm going to show you that is a cotton jersey, because I've been going on and on about how the ones I've shown you are grown-up prints. I'm going to show you one that is truly a children's print, and it's just so fun. Look at this. This is Old MacDonald's farm. It's a cream background. Oh, I just think it's adorable. So you've got like a little donkey, tractors, a little farmhouse with, I think that's a cat, pig, fence. Just how blooming cute is that? So in terms of children's patterns for a jersey, the Poppy and Jazz are the ones that we stock. You're just going to have to bear with me. I know this looks upside down right now, but just want to show you as I step back. But the Poppy and Jazz patterns, so there's one called the Elm t-shirt, which is just a great everyday kids pattern. So I think that one, it goes from newborn up to 6 years. And again, sticking with Poppy and Jazz, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a dungaree pattern, and it is by far the most popular pattern, and I have seen so many really adorable versions of that dungaree pattern in all different types of children's cotton jerseys. Now moving on to viscose jersey fabrics that we have in stock. So I'm going to start by showing you the one that I already actually showed you at the beginning of this video, but I absolutely love it. So I'm going to have to show you it a bit more in detail. So this is the Flower Patch viscose jersey. So it's a cream background, and it's got these really pretty, like, I guess autumnal, but I think they'd work in the summer as well. So orange, like a deep coral, a green, you've got a pale blue, you've got a bit of royal blue in here. It's just, yeah, really, really pretty. I'll step back with it so that you can see the overall print and how it moves. So really, yeah, nice and drapey. I absolutely love this one. The other thing I should say that I probably haven't mentioned yet is that viscose jerseys usually are undeniably soft. They are like buttery soft to touch, which I love. Yeah, I don't know why that is. I don't know why they are softer than a cotton jersey, but they are so soft just to touch. They're amazing. Now this one, if you're not into flowers, then this one's probably more up your street. So this is the Mint Mixed Shapes cotton jersey. I think the camera is making that darker. When I bring it up, it is more kind of this colour that you see here, like a real nice mint duck egg kind of colouring, but it's not flowers, it is just different shapes on this. It's a cream background actually, but yeah, really pretty and great for, yeah, if I know not everyone is into like floral prints, this one's a really good alternative. Next I've got the Irregular Spot. So this is actually a navy background, despite that looking quite almost black on camera. It's not. It is definitely a navy background with all these white irregular spots all over it, funnily enough. This one's quite heavy, hence me struggling with it. Let me step back so you can see. I do really like this one actually, but Nice and drapey, like you'd expect from the Viscose jerseys. So in terms of pattern suggestions for Viscose jerseys, because of the drape, they work perfectly for dresses because they've got that like swish and movement that a cotton jersey doesn't have. So yeah, anything that you want to flow and move but also give you that added comfort of the stretch, Viscose jerseys are really, really good for. So the Friday Pattern Company, I think it's called Dew. How do you pronounce that? D-E-W. Dew? I think that's how you say it. I'll put a picture of it on the screen. It's fairly new, that pattern. That would work really nicely because of the like cowl neck that they've got going on. That would work really well. This one is called Sage Leaves. It's on a black background. Let me just unwind it a little bit more. It's on a black background and then it's got all of these leaves all over it. So it's like a white outline and then some of them have got like a sage green colour in here. Yeah, it's a really nice, quite a deep sage, but yeah, really, really nice. Quite a big print, this one. So you can see when I step back, it is quite a big design. There's my hand for reference. It is, yeah, quite big, but really nice and drapey. So another pattern suggestion would be, again, it's Friday Pattern Company, but the Westcliff dress. Now, that would also work in a standard cotton jersey, and it's just up to you on your preference, whether you'd prefer a dress that had flow and moved, or whether you'd prefer a dress that was quite, not rigid, but more rigid than like, yeah, a flowy one. It's hard to describe the difference, but both would work for that pattern. Right, so I'm going to stop there because I could just keep going and showing you all of the different fabrics that we've got, but I think I have covered everything that I wanted to say in this video. So hopefully you enjoyed watching this. Hopefully you learned something new, or maybe it was just nice to have a bit of a refresher. I will see you again in the next episode. I'm not actually sure what that episode is going to be about yet, but there will be one, I promise. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon.